I love it. I'm like, woo! Okay. Hi everybody, my name is Kyle Cragle and I'm an artist at Cirque du Soleil. Okay guys, happy to see you back with us here at Color Me Cirque, the Cirque du Soleil makeup tutorial series. My name is Kyle, I'm your host, and week by week we are doing step-by-step applications of some of my favorite Cirque du Soleil looks. This week, I have my bias going on once again. We are doing a look from our show Ovo. We're gonna do the male flea, their fun red and yellow kind of character. Really excited about it. If you guys wanna follow along with this tutorial, please check out the description box down below. We have listed all the products and all the tools that you will need to be able to replicate this look. Without further ado, let's get started on this flea. Hello everybody and welcome to today's makeup tutorial. Today we're gonna do one of our fun insects from our touring show Ovo. This is the male flea makeup. As you can see, it's red and yellow and really fun. So if you guys wanna get started, well, just stick around. Are you guys ready for step one? Today we're just gonna start off with a base that's going to be applied all over the face. This is a liquid foundation, and as you can see, it's a little bit lighter than my skin tone. For this specific character, no matter what skin tone you are, we like to use the same foundation. This is a very, very light shade. We're gonna apply this with a big brush evenly all over the skin. Once you have applied a generous coat of that foundation, we're gonna go ahead and move on to step number 2. For this, we're gonna take a regular makeup sponge, like we have in most of our makeup tutorials, and a yellow cream, and we're gonna start applying that, blending lightly with the sponge on the cheekbone. We're actually gonna make sort of a half oval shape, if you will, starting at the temple and coming down and blending into the middle of the cheekbone. You don't wanna take this color too far to the inside. We really want it to finish around the outer edge of the apple of the cheek. Once we're done buffing and blending that color into the cheek, we're going to take a medium-sized flat brush, same yellow cream, and we're gonna apply that onto the brow bone. From the brow bone, you are gonna blend into the area where you've already applied to your cheek. Once you're done applying this with the brush on the brow bone, you're gonna take yet again another tool, this time a mascara brush, load it up with that product, and we are going to cover the outer edge of our eyebrow with that product as well. So once again, blending that color in, now from the middle of the eyebrow using the mascara brush, out into the cheek where we faded it into our foundation. Now that we're done with the yellow, we're gonna go in and add some red. We're gonna take a small cat tongue brush. The more precise and fine you can have the brush, I would say the better. And we're gonna load it up with a red cream this time, and we're gonna start to draw on our eyebrow shape. I like to start from the outer corner of the brow, pulling out to the outside edge of the temple. The key to these eyebrows is having a relatively flat shape. We don't want it to curve up on the face or curve down on the face. We really wanna pull a straight line from the outside of the eyebrow. Once you've established that straight line, we're gonna extend that line just above the top of your natural eyebrow into the center. Just to the inside of your natural brow, we're gonna create a nice straight line. So these brows are gonna end up looking like blocks. So we're gonna have a nice straight defined line at the inside of the brow, extending that straight line all the way out to the temple. Take as much time as you need here. This is actually one of the steps that's not the easiest in this makeup. Once you've defined the outside edges and the boundaries of this shape, you can go ahead and fill in the rest of the brow with the red. I'm gonna go in once again with a mascara brush to make sure that I have a nice amount of coverage since I have some pretty thick and dark eyebrows here. Once you have the desired intensity, we're gonna go ahead and blend the red and yellow together where those two colors meet on our temple. I'm going to reiterate that the brows are probably one of the toughest parts of this makeup. Try your best to follow the indications that I've given you, but remember that no makeup is perfect and we're not perfect, so take your time and do your best. Now that we've added some fun shapes to the upper half of the face, now we're gonna start on the lower half of the face. So I'm going to grab a synthetic brush, pretty simple brush, nothing special here, and I'm gonna grab that same yellow cream and I'm going to start to define a triangular shape on my chin. The size of this triangle is not much bigger than the actual width of my nose. The triangle should definitely not be bigger than the width of the mouth, it should be just inside. I would say that the width of my nose is probably the reference that I used the most. Once you've defined the actual triangle on your chin, you're gonna pull that shape all the way down to the neck, and you're gonna blend that yellow cream color into the foundation layer that we've already established. And now that we're done with the yellow, you guessed it, we're gonna go in with red. I'm gonna take that same small brush that I was using for my eyebrows. I'm gonna follow the exact shape that we've already established with the yellow, just creating a red border around it. we're gonna blend the outer edge, so make sure that you don't apply too much red at the beginning. You're gonna have time to blend that edge out later and apply more intensity as needed. As you start blending that outer edge, keep one thing in mind. We do want to feel that the red fades nicely into the skin tone. However, we don't want to compromise the intensity for the blending. So just keep that in mind as you're working back and forth with your red and blending into the skin tone. Alright, same brush, same color, different shape, different place. We are going to go in and make some small rectangular shapes just under the eyes. We are going to create a rectangular shape that spans from the just inside the inner corner of the eye to just outside the outer corner of the eye. The skin under the eye is a little bit more flexible, so I suggest using smaller, lighter movements to create this shape because the skin under the eye is going to react differently than some of the other places that we've worked. The goal of this shape is to, yes, sort of follow the curve of the eye, but we do want to feel some nice straight rectangles as well. This shape is really small and really precise. Don't be afraid to take your time here. You may have not realized it, but you're starting to look a lot like a flea. We are actually done with our cream base, so I'm going to go in with a powder puff and a translucent setting powder, and I'm going to set everything. As you might notice, I like to go in with the setting powder in the places where I spent a lot of time working, aka those eyebrows. So I went in on the eyebrows first, then I set the blending that we did on the chin shape, then right under the eyes, and then after you're done setting those places, it's super easy and you can just apply generously all over the foundation. And in good Cirque tradition, we're gonna grab a fluffy powder brush and get rid of all of that excess powder. Working around the face until all of the excess is gone, as usual. Nothing special here. We are now going to go in with a medium-toned brown shading shade. I'm gonna go in with a medium-sized flat brush. I'm gonna start applying that under the chin on the sides of the red blending that we have already done. I'm going to continue on with the same brush and apply that color on the sides of the nose, blending that color just under the eyebrow as well. Once I have a nice blending and a nice intensity on the sides of the nose, I'm going to go in with a big brush and I'm going to apply that under the cheekbones. Make sure that you have a decent amount of intensity with this color, as we want to see that we have a nose instead of losing it in a flat foundation color. However, we don't want the lines to be too sharp. In fact, after I was finished applying this color, I felt like it wasn't blended enough, so I went back in with my powder brush, no extra product, and I just lightly went over those lines to make sure that they were nice and blended into my complexion color. Okay, now that we've warmed up and defined the face, it's time to go back in and add some intensity to the places where we put colors. So I'm going to go in with a small brush and a yellow powder. This specific powder has a bit of a sheen, it's not quite a matte, but if a matte is all that you have, you're just going to have to work with what you got. I'm just going to apply that yellow shadow, redefining the yellow shape that we have already created on our chin. Continuing on with the same shadow and a medium-sized brush, I'm going to apply the yellow to the brow bone. Remember when we applied that yellow shade to the brow bone with the creams? Passing over the exact same place. Once you've got it down on the brow bone, you're going to go in with an even bigger brush and apply that yellow shade over the cheekbones and the temples, almost blending into the eyebrow. You guessed it, it is eyebrow time. I'm going to go in with that small brush and I'm going to take a matte red shadow and I'm going to start to define my eyebrows. A little tip that we use here, I'm actually applying this eyeshadow wet. You can use a mixing medium, a setting spray, or you could use just plain old water, it works too, just to make sure that our edges are nice and sharp. If you make mistakes on this step, especially if you're applying the eyeshadow wet, it's a little harder to correct, so just really take your time and make sure that we end up with some nice, sharp edges. Once you've defined the edges of the eyebrows, you can go ahead and start filling it in once again with the wet eyeshadow. However, where the red and the yellow meet on the temples, we're going to actually want to blend the eyebrow in. It doesn't have to be over blended, but it is actually easier to blend those two colors together with a dry shadow. So in order to complete the eyebrow, I'm going to end up switching back and forth between applying it wet and applying it dry just to make sure that we have a nice blended edge. To finish off the blending of this step, I'm actually going to go in lightly with my yellow and just blend those two edges together. One of the secrets to blending is not being afraid to go in with both colors multiple times, passing over to make sure that we create a nice middle step in between the two. Continuing on in a similar fashion, I'm going to take a very small defining brush, the same eyeshadow wet, and I'm going to define those block shapes that we've created under the eyes. We want these block shapes to be nice and defined, so take your time, make sure that those edges are nice and sharp, and that the red is nice and intense. Alright, and the last place that we are going to apply the red is on the chin. This time I'm applying it dry because remember, we want to have a nice blended edge. Work in that red for as long as you want. Just remember, we want to see intensity and we want to see a blended edge. Two most important things. Alright, it's time for my favorite part, eyeliner. For this, we're going in with a regular old black pencil. This particular pencil is quite stiff, but the product stays creamy. We want a creamier pencil because we're actually going to go in with a smaller definer brush and we're going to blend in. So you're going to apply the liner from the outer edge of the eye just to the inside of the iris. Once you have a nice intense base down, you're going to take that definer brush and you're going to blend it out a little bit more towards the inside of the eye. Once you're done applying the black with the pencil, you're going to grab the definer brush and you're going to buff out the edges. So you're actually going to pull the edge of that liner to the inside of your eye a little bit more. However, we don't want to pull this liner all the way into the inner corner of the eye. If I had to cover all the bases of this liner, the outer edges are going to touch, but the inner edges are not going to go all the way into the inside of our actual eye. The purpose of this liner is to define the natural shape of our eye, so we don't want to apply it anywhere other than close to the lash line, following our natural eye shape. Once you're happy with the intensity and the shape of your liner, you're going to go ahead and set that black pencil with a black shadow. This specific shadow is matte, nothing special, just a plain old black. I'm taking the same shape of definer brush that I used to push those edges out when we were applying the pencil, and I'm just running over the same places with the powder. In this specific liner, we want to feel a nice smoky effect, but we don't want the liner to be too thick. Make sure that you use the black sparingly. Adding too much black can really transform the eye in a way that we don't want. We just want to make sure that that pencil is set down and that we have a nice blended edge, actually kind of similar to the edge that we have on the chin. This liner should not be too thick, nor should it be too thin. We want to feel the natural shape of the eye, so do whatever you would normally do to make your eyes look pretty. Once you set down that liner, we want to make sure that the liner's not lonely, so we're going to go in with a quick coat of mascara on the top and the bottom lashes. Okay guys, you're almost there. We only have one more step, and that is defining the lips. For this specific makeup, we don't use any lip color. We're actually going to use the natural color of our lips. So I'm just going in with a Q-tip and some makeup remover, and I'm redefining the shape of my lips. Once I'm done redefining the shape of the lips, I'm just going to go in with a lip conditioner. You can go in with any lip moisturizer that you'd like, as long as it's not tinted. Alright, once our lips are nice and moisturized, this makeup is complete! That's right, now you look just like one of our male fleas from OVO. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial just as much as I did. Thank you so much for joining me and following along with me. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure to come back to our YouTube channel and join me for the next one. Until next time. Alright guys, good job. You have successfully transformed into fleas. If you're a lady, don't worry. Male flea makeup can go on ladies too. You can go on anybody. It's all just about having fun. That being said, I hope that you guys did have fun today. If you liked today's video, give us a thumbs up. I love to know if you guys liked what we did. Hit that subscribe button if you want to know the next time that we post a tutorial. And sound off down below if you guys liked doing this tutorial. If you want to see something different, let us know how we did. We want to hear from you guys. If you want to post any photos or videos on your personal social media, please make sure to use the hashtag #ColorMeCirque. We want to see which of you guys are following these tutorials, and we want to see your recreations because I am sure that they are super beautiful and super fun. I hope you guys had a great time with me today. I cannot wait to see you guys back here again next week for yet another tutorial. See ya.